Something is about to happen between you and the person your heart keeps returning to. Something they have delayed for far too long. Your soulmate is preparing to confess their feelings for you. But the confession will not sound the way you expect. They are not simply going to say that they miss you. They are not only going to admit that they think about you. What they are preparing to reveal goes much deeper than attraction, longing, or temporary emotion. There is a truth they have been hiding. A truth about the exact moment they realized they loved you. A truth about why they became distant after feeling closer to you than ever before. And when you finally hear what they have been carrying, you may understand every confusing moment between you in a completely different way. For a long time, your soulmate believed silence was safer. They thought that if they kept their emotions hidden, the connection would remain under control. They could stay close enough to feel your presence but distant enough to avoid the risk of rejection. That was the plan. But feelings do not always respect plans. The more they tried to control what was happening, the more powerful the connection became. They began thinking about you during ordinary moments. While traveling. While working. Before falling asleep. Sometimes they would hear a song and immediately imagine how you might react to it. Sometimes they would see something beautiful and feel an unexpected sadness because you were not there to experience it with them. They started collecting small things to tell you. A story from their day. A thought they knew you would understand. A joke that would only be funny if they shared it with you. But many of those messages were never sent. They wrote them. Read them. Then deleted them. Not because they did not want to speak to you. Because every message felt like evidence. Evidence that you had become too important. And your soulmate was terrified of giving you that much power over their heart. Perhaps you noticed the change. There were moments when they appeared completely open with you. Their voice softened. Their walls came down. They looked at you as though the rest of the world had disappeared. Then suddenly, they pulled away. Their messages became shorter. Their energy became difficult to understand. They acted busy, distracted, or emotionally unavailable. You may have wondered whether you had imagined the closeness. You may have asked yourself whether their feelings changed overnight. But the truth is almost the opposite. They became distant because the feelings did not disappear. They became stronger. There was one particular moment that changed everything inside them. It may have seemed unimportant to you. Perhaps you were speaking honestly about something painful. Maybe you admitted that you were tired of always appearing strong. Maybe you revealed a dream you rarely share with anyone. Your soulmate watched you. They listened to the way your voice changed. They noticed the vulnerability beneath your words. And instead of feeling uncomfortable, they felt something they had not expected. They wanted to protect your softness. They wanted to become someone you could trust completely. They wanted to be present not only when you were happy, confident, and easy to love, but also when you were afraid, exhausted, or uncertain. That was the moment they understood that this was no longer a simple connection. They were falling in love with the real you. Not an imaginary version. Not the version you show everyone. They were falling for the person beneath the strength. And that realization frightened them. Your soulmate has experienced disappointment before. They have trusted people who promised to stay and then disappeared. They have opened their heart only to be told that their emotions were too intense. They have learned that sometimes the people who know your deepest fears also know exactly how to hurt you. Because of that past, love does not only feel beautiful to them. It feels dangerous. The moment they recognized their feelings for you, old memories returned. They began imagining everything that could go wrong. What if you did not feel the same? What if you cared, but not enough to choose them? What if they confessed and the connection became awkward? What if you accepted their love, only to leave once they became fully attached? These questions became louder than the truth in front of them. And instead of telling you they were afraid, they created distance. They convinced themselves that pulling away would protect both of you. But the distance did not bring peace. It made them miss you. It made every unsent message feel heavier. It made them realize that silence could also become a form of loss. Your soulmate watched your energy begin to change. At first, you still reached out. You still tried to understand what was happening. You may have asked whether everything was all right. You may have given them opportunities to explain. But they did not. They said they were busy. They said nothing was wrong. They acted as though you were worrying unnecessarily. And each time they denied the truth, something inside you became quieter. You stopped asking as many questions. You stopped offering your feelings so openly. You stopped trying to force clarity from someone who seemed determined to hide. Your soulmate noticed. They noticed every change. They noticed that your messages no longer carried the same warmth. They noticed when you stopped sharing details about your day. They noticed when you began protecting yourself. But instead of reaching out, pride told them to remain silent. They believed that if you truly cared, you would return. They expected you to break the distance. You had done it before. You had often been the person brave enough to begin difficult conversations. So they waited. But this time, something was different. You did not chase. And your silence became the mirror they had been avoiding. Without your constant presence, your soulmate had no distraction from their own feelings. They began replaying your conversations. They remembered things you said months ago. They remembered the way you looked at them when you believed they were finally going to be honest. They remembered moments when your eyes seemed to ask questions your voice did not speak. And slowly, regret began replacing fear. They realized that while they had been protecting themselves from possible rejection, they were creating a real separation. They were losing you without ever giving the connection a fair chance. That truth followed them everywhere. Then something happened recently. Someone mentioned your name. Perhaps it was a mutual friend. Perhaps a family member asked why you and your soulmate no longer seemed as close. Maybe someone casually said that you appeared to be moving on. Your soulmate tried to remain calm. They pretended the information did not affect them. But later, when they were alone, the words returned. You are moving on. They imagined you giving your attention to someone else. They imagined someone speaking to you with the consistency they never offered. They imagined you slowly forgetting the person who kept you waiting for clarity. That possibility broke through every excuse they had been using. For the first time, the fear of losing you became stronger than the fear of confessing. They picked up their phone. They opened your conversation. Their fingers hovered above the keyboard. They typed, "I need to tell you something." Then they deleted it. They wrote, "Can we talk?" They deleted that too. Every sentence felt too small for what they needed to say. Because your soulmate does not only want to admit that they have feelings. They want to confess what those feelings have already made them do. They have made decisions with you in mind without telling you. They have turned down opportunities that would have taken them farther away. They have imagined changing parts of their life so there could be space for you in it. They have thought about introducing you to people who matter to them. They have pictured ordinary mornings beside you. Not only romantic moments. Real life. They have imagined arguments and reconciliation. They have imagined supporting you through difficult seasons. They have imagined you meeting the version of them that exists when no one else is watching. And there is something even more shocking. They have already spoken about you to someone close to them. Your name has been mentioned in a conversation you know nothing about. Your soulmate did not plan to reveal everything. It began with a simple question. Someone noticed that they had changed. They noticed the way your soulmate smiled after seeing your message. They noticed how quickly their mood shifted whenever the connection became uncertain. They asked, "Is there someone?" Your soulmate tried to deny it. They said it was complicated. They said there was nothing serious. But the person continued asking questions. And eventually, your soulmate spoke your name. The moment they said it, their entire energy changed. They began talking about your kindness. Your emotional depth. The way you understand things other people overlook. They spoke about how safe they feel when you are being honest with them. They admitted that even your silence affects them more than most people's presence. The person listened carefully. Then they asked the question your soulmate had been avoiding. Do you love them? Your soulmate became silent. They wanted to say no. They wanted to describe the connection as temporary or uncertain. But they could no longer lie. Not after everything they had felt. Not after imagining a future with you. So they finally said yes. Yes, they love you. The confession came out quietly. But once it was spoken, something changed. For the first time, your soulmate heard the truth outside their own mind. They could no longer pretend this was only curiosity. They could no longer claim they needed more time to understand their emotions. They knew. They had known for longer than they admitted. The person they were speaking to asked another question. Then why have you not told them? Your soulmate tried to explain. They spoke about fear. They spoke about timing. They said they were uncertain about your feelings. But every explanation sounded weak once it was spoken aloud. The person looked at them and said something that has not left their mind. Maybe you are waiting for certainty that can only come after honesty. Those words changed everything. Your soulmate realized they had been asking the connection to become safe before they were willing to become vulnerable. They wanted proof that you would choose them before admitting they wanted you. They wanted reassurance without offering clarity. They wanted love without risk. But that kind of love does not exist. Any real confession contains uncertainty. There is always a chance the other person may not respond the way you hope. Your soulmate understood that courage was not waiting until rejection became impossible. Courage was telling the truth even when the answer remained unknown. That night, they made a decision. They would confess. Not through vague hints. Not through behavior they expected you to interpret. They would use clear words. They began writing everything they wanted to say. They wrote that they were sorry for the confusion. They admitted that their distance came from fear, not a lack of emotion. They explained that your importance had forced them to confront wounds they thought they had already healed. Then they wrote the sentence they had avoided for months. I love you. They stared at it. Their chest tightened. For a moment, they wanted to delete the entire message. But then they thought about your silence. They remembered how much it hurt to imagine that the opportunity had already disappeared. They decided that even a painful truth would be better than a lifetime of wondering. But your soulmate did not send the message immediately. There is a reason. They are planning something more personal. They want to tell you face to face. They want you to hear the emotion in their voice. They want you to see that this is not another impulsive message created by loneliness. They want to stand in front of you without hiding behind a screen and take responsibility for every mixed signal they gave you. They are already thinking about where the conversation could happen. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere meaningful to both of you. Perhaps the place where the connection first began to feel different. Perhaps the place where they first realized your absence would hurt. They have imagined every possible reaction. You might become silent. You might cry. You might ask why they waited so long. You may tell them that you once felt the same, but you no longer know whether you can trust the connection. They are preparing for that. Your soulmate understands that confessing love does not automatically repair the damage caused by avoidance. They know you may need time. They know your heart may have built walls because they gave you no reason to believe they would stay. They are not expecting one confession to erase everything. This time, they want to prove their feelings through consistency. They want to contact you when they say they will. They want to communicate when fear appears instead of becoming distant. They want to listen when you explain how their behavior affected you. They are willing to hear the truth, even if the truth makes them uncomfortable. Because what they feel has finally become stronger than the desire to protect their pride. There is another secret inside the confession. Something they have never told anyone completely. Your soulmate believes you may be the person they have been waiting for. Not because the connection is perfect. It is not. Not because everything between you has been easy. It has not. They believe it because you have shown them parts of themselves they could no longer ignore. Your presence made them want to heal. Your honesty made them question their own emotional patterns. Your silence taught them that love cannot survive if only one person is carrying it. You have changed them without trying to control them. That is why this confession feels so serious. They are not only saying they want you. They are saying they want to become capable of loving you properly. But something happened while they were preparing to confess. They discovered that you may already know part of the truth. Someone told them that you once spoke about the connection. Not in a careless way. Not to expose private details. You admitted that you cared about someone who seemed afraid of their own feelings. You said you did not know whether to stay hopeful or let go. When your soulmate heard this, their heart nearly stopped. For months, they believed they were the only one carrying unspoken emotion. Now they are wondering whether you were waiting for them to become honest. They are wondering whether your silence was not rejection. Maybe it was the final boundary of someone who could no longer keep confessing through actions while receiving confusion in return. This possibility has given them hope. But it has also increased the urgency. Because if you still care, they know the connection may have one more chance. And if you are moving on, they know they have very little time to speak before their silence becomes the permanent ending. Your soulmate is now preparing the exact words. They are not going to promise that everything will be perfect. They are not going to say fate will solve every problem. They are going to admit that love will require effort. They will tell you they are afraid. They will tell you they may still make mistakes. But they will also tell you they are ready to stop running. They want to say, I do not know exactly what happens after this, but I know I do not want a future where I never told you the truth. They want to tell you that you were never imagining the connection. The moments of closeness were real. The way they looked at you was real. The jealousy they tried to hide was real. The pain they felt during your silence was real. And the love they are about to confess is real. They may contact you unexpectedly. The message may arrive at a time when you are not prepared. It may simply say, "Can I see you? There is something I should have said a long time ago." When it appears, your first instinct may be fear. You may remember every unanswered question. You may wonder whether opening the conversation will reopen an old wound. Your soulmate understands that. They are prepared to let you choose. They will not force you to meet. They will not use their emotions to pressure you. But they are hoping you will allow them one honest moment. Because they have kept something else connected to you. A photograph. A note. A small memory you believe they forgot. They plan to bring it when they confess. It has remained hidden among their personal belongings. Whenever they tried to convince themselves to let you go, they found it again. It reminded them of the day their feelings changed. The day they stopped seeing you as someone temporary. The day they silently chose you before fear convinced them to hide. They are going to place it in your hands and tell you why they kept it. But the most shocking part is not the object. It is the promise connected to it. Months ago, your soulmate made a private promise. They told themselves that if they ever found the courage to give you that memory, they would also give you the entire truth. No more half-confessions. No more disappearing. No more expecting you to guess. That moment is now approaching. Your soulmate is closer than ever to speaking. They have already admitted their love to someone else. They have already written the confession. They have already chosen the place. All that remains is the final step toward you. But just before they were ready to contact you, they received information that shocked them. Someone told them you may have made a major decision. A decision that could take you away. A new opportunity. A change in your life. Something that might make this confession arrive at the very last possible moment. Now your soulmate knows they cannot wait. Their fear is still present. Their hands may still shake. Their voice may still break when they see you. But this time, they are not allowing fear to make the decision. They are coming with the truth. They are coming with the memory they kept. They are coming to admit that every moment of distance was filled with feelings they did not know how to express. And when they finally look into your eyes, the confession will begin with something simple. I should have told you this before my silence made you question everything. Then they will tell you what they have known for months. You are not just someone they miss. You are not only someone they feel connected to. You are the person they love. And they are finally ready to discover whether this confession is the ending of a painful chapter or the beginning of the future both of you were too afraid to choose. The message arrived when you had almost stopped expecting it. Can I see you? There is something I should have said a long time ago. For several seconds, you simply looked at their name on the screen. Your heart reacted immediately, but your mind tried to protect you. You remembered every moment when you had waited for this person to speak honestly. You remembered the questions they avoided, the conversations they delayed, and the sudden distance that made you wonder whether the connection had ever been real. There was a time when you would have answered within seconds. But now you were different. Their silence had changed you. It had taught you not to run toward every small sign of hope. It had taught you that a message could reopen a wound just as easily as it could heal one. You read the words again. There is something I should have said a long time ago. On the other side, your soulmate was staring at the same conversation. They had written a much longer message first. They had confessed everything in paragraphs that filled the entire screen. They told you when their feelings began. They explained why they became afraid. They admitted that every period of distance had been filled with thoughts of you. But before sending it, they deleted almost all of it. They realized you deserved more than a confession delivered through a screen. You deserved to see their face. You deserved to hear their voice. And they needed to stand in front of you without being able to hide behind carefully edited words. So they sent the simple request. Now they were waiting. Every passing minute felt like an answer. They wondered whether you had already made the decision they feared. The decision to leave. They had recently heard about an opportunity that could take you away. Perhaps it was connected to work, family, study, or a new beginning somewhere far from the life you currently knew. They did not know whether you had accepted it. They only knew that people around you were speaking as though change was coming. And suddenly, your soulmate understood that time was not waiting for their courage. Life was continuing. You were continuing. If they remained silent, they might lose the chance to tell you everything while it could still matter. Your reply finally appeared. We can talk. But I need complete honesty. Your soulmate closed their eyes. Relief moved through them, followed immediately by fear. You had not promised forgiveness. You had not said you still loved them. You had only offered a conversation. But to someone who believed the door might already be closed, that conversation felt like the final light in a dark room. They suggested a place that carried meaning for both of you. It was not dramatic. It may have been somewhere you once spent time together, somewhere ordinary that became important because of what happened there. Perhaps it was the place where your first real conversation took place. Perhaps it was where they first noticed that your presence affected them differently. They chose it because they wanted the truth to begin where the connection had once felt uncomplicated. The hours before the meeting passed slowly. Your soulmate stood in front of a mirror, attempting to practice the confession. I care about you. No. That was too small. I have feelings for you. Still not enough. I love you. The words finally appeared. They stared at their own reflection after saying them. Their voice shook. It was not the first time they had admitted the truth to themselves, but it was the first time they had heard those exact words spoken aloud in preparation for you. They placed the small memory connected to you inside their pocket. The object they had protected for months. The object they planned to give you if courage remained when they finally saw your face. Then they left. You arrived uncertain about what you were willing to hear. Part of you wanted the confession you had once dreamed about. Another part of you wanted to protect the peace you had created during the silence. You reminded yourself that listening did not mean accepting. Meeting them did not mean forgetting. Love did not require you to abandon your boundaries. When you saw your soulmate approaching, you noticed something immediately. They looked nervous. Not the kind of nervousness someone performs to gain sympathy. Their hands were unsteady. Their steps slowed when they saw you. And for one brief moment, they looked as though they might turn around. But they did not. They came closer. Neither of you knew how to begin. They said your name softly. The sound of it affected you more than you wanted to admit. Then they apologized. Not with excuses. Not with a long explanation about their past. They said, I know I made you question something that was real because I was too afraid to admit it was real. You remained quiet. Your soulmate continued. They told you they had noticed your energy changing. They saw when your warmth became caution. They understood when your questions became silence. They admitted that part of them had expected you to continue trying, even though they were giving you almost nothing to hold on to. They had depended on your patience. They had mistaken your love for an unlimited opportunity. And now they knew how unfair that had been. You asked why they had waited until now. The question was simple, but it carried every painful moment between you. Why now? Your soulmate looked down. Because I heard you might be leaving. Your heart tightened. Part of you became angry. So the possibility of losing you had finally given them courage? Would they have continued hiding if your life had remained unchanged? You asked them directly. If I was not leaving, would you still be standing here? They did not answer immediately. That hesitation hurt. Then they spoke. I want to say yes. But the honest answer is that I do not know how long I would have continued being afraid. Hearing that you might leave forced me to see what my silence was actually costing. The answer was imperfect. But it was truthful. They could have told you what sounded romantic. They could have claimed they had planned the confession long before hearing the news. Instead, they admitted that fear had controlled them until the possibility of permanent loss became real. You looked away. Your soulmate allowed the silence to remain. They did not try to rush you toward forgiveness. Then they said there was something you needed to understand about the distance. It was not only fear of rejection. There was another reason. They had believed someone close to you had feelings for them. A misunderstanding had begun months earlier. Someone had made a comment. Someone else had repeated a conversation without the full context. Your soulmate believed that if they confessed to you, they might create conflict between people you cared about. They thought you were aware of this other person's feelings. They believed your warmth might only be kindness because you did not want to hurt anyone. Instead of asking you directly, they built an entire story inside their mind. They convinced themselves that remaining silent was the respectful choice. You listened in disbelief. No one close to you had ever told you anything like that. You asked who had given them this information. Your soulmate explained. It came from someone they trusted. A person who appeared to understand the connection. This person had noticed your soulmate's feelings and asked questions. They claimed they were only trying to help, but every answer increased the confusion. They said you cared, but perhaps not romantically. They said someone else was already emotionally involved. They warned your soulmate that confessing could damage several relationships. Your soulmate accepted the warning because it gave fear a respectable explanation. They could tell themselves they were staying silent to protect you. But now they understood that silence had protected no one. It only created pain. Recently, they confronted the person who had given them the information. They asked for proof. There was none. The person admitted they had assumed certain things. Then, under more pressure, they revealed something unexpected. They had known your soulmate cared about you. And they had wanted the connection to remain uncertain. Your soulmate's voice became quieter as they explained. The person was afraid that once you and your soulmate became close, they would lose their importance. They enjoyed being the person your soulmate came to for advice. They liked being needed. Your presence threatened that emotional position. So they did not create a direct lie. They created enough doubt to keep your soulmate from acting. They offered suggestions. Warnings. Incomplete stories. They knew fear would turn those pieces into a wall. Your soulmate apologized again. They said manipulation did not remove their responsibility. They should have spoken to you. They should have trusted the connection enough to ask a difficult question. Instead, they listened to someone who confirmed what they were already afraid to believe. You asked whether this person still remained in their life. Your soulmate said they had created distance. Not because you demanded it. You had never known this was happening. They did it because a person who uses confusion to preserve influence cannot be trusted with the most vulnerable parts of someone's life. Your soulmate had begun recognizing how often they allowed other people's opinions to control their choices. Meeting you had forced them to confront that pattern. Loving you had made them want to become emotionally responsible. But they were still afraid you would believe the confession had arrived too late. They reached into their pocket. When they revealed the small object, you recognized it immediately. It was connected to a day you remembered clearly. Perhaps it was a note you wrote without much thought. A small photograph. A ticket from a place you visited together. Something ordinary that you believed had no lasting importance.